Hello everyone and welcome to Jay's Car Adventures with Deer and Other Things Part 2, where last time we left off, I was given $5,100 to get covered in deer poop. And now we're going to get to hear what happened to that money and the car that I bought with that. Thankfully, this one's not going to involve any kind of deer poop or any kind of, gooiness of any kind, so that should be okay. But I feel like this other story has been just as interesting as the first one in its own way. So, first, let me tell you about the car that I bought with that money, because it was just a phenomenal beast of everything. Just because I had to call it the Dragon Mobile, because it had it was all white with these black flaming tribal dragons down the side, and it was turbocharged. It would go from 0 to 100 in 5 seconds. Oh my god, I'm surprised I never got pulled over doing this, and it was just so much fun. It had a 6 CD changer that I could do any amount of CDs that I wanted. It was the deluxe model, and the only reason I could get it for, I added a little bit of money onto it, so I got it for about $6,000, was because it was in a flood. And there's a guy that around where I live who likes to fix up cars. So it was just this perfect storm of getting this amazing car, and then not even a year after the first deer, I hit another deer. So, to explain, among the turbocharged, the last owner also got racing tires for this one. So they're you see regular tires, they're about 6 inches around. These things were about 3 inches maybe. This car was low to the ground. And what was it? So I was driving home. I used to come home at 3 in the morning. So it's dark. That's when deer are highly active. I'm surprised I haven't hit more deer at this point. But this one night, they were waiting for me. Because they came around a corner and one just ran out. I'm like, not again! And it runs across. And I'm so low to the ground. I end up taking the legs out from under it first. And then it hits my hood and just glances off up into the air and flies away to where I can't even see it anymore. I actually found a video that can perfectly show this. So here you go. And that's basically what happened. I mean, I wasn't going quite that fast, but you get the idea. This deer was just gone. Whee! Bloop. And oh my god, I had to pull over, get out of the car. I'm like, not again, son of a bitch. I look over, and the deer is up in someone's backyard, which is up on a hill. It went up into their backyard and just laying there. Now that I'm sitting here telling this story, I probably should have apologized for what they had found that morning, but I kind of left it there because I was a little shaken, obviously. And I look at the car, and it's not too bad. I mean, the headlight is now sunken in, but it still works. It's still there. The bulb's still going strong. And there's some dents and cracks on the body on the left side. But other than that, it looks pretty good. So I drive home, which is thankfully probably 5 miles. So it wasn't too bad. And I look at everything, and it seems okay. It's running okay. There's a couple scraping noises because now things are touching that shouldn't be touching. But I figured we'll figure it out. And so I get home, I go to bed, I come the next morning, and I have to tell my parents, Mother and Father, I've hit another deer. And it's like, no! I'm like, I'm sorry. The car's mostly okay. But the main problem now is that I live 2 hours south of where they do. I've moved out, I now live on my own, and I was just visiting. So I had to leave my car. My dad agreed to drive it to Walt's Body Shop. Yes, the same Walt from the last story, who when I called him was very happy that there was no animal fluids involved in this vehicle at all. So I go home, and thankfully I also live 2 miles away from where I work and could bike. It was a very easy, nice bike ride I could do. It kept me healthy, and I appreciated that. So that was okay until I got a call from my dad saying that when he drove it over to Walt's, he had to stop like every mile for like 10 minutes to let the car cool down because it was overheating. I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound good. But my dad figured it was just the radiator, which it did turn out to be, that when the deer hit, the connection of the radiator had dislodged. Well, actually broke completely off, and it wasn't working anymore. So, among that and the other things that Walt told me how to replace the parts, they were going to get that fixed up. But the problem is that my insurance company was really dragging their feet on this one, getting the claims adjuster to go look at it. So week after week after week, I'm waiting to hear that my car is going to be taken care of, biking to work, and it's not so bad when I first happened. It was around September-ish, and so it's cold, but not terrible, but it's getting colder, and we're getting closer to snow, so I'm like, can we get this fixed? And I finally get the call that I can come back up again to get the car. I'm like, oh my god, because I really miss the Dragon Mobile. It's my favorite car. It's a beautiful thing. But yeah, so we go get them, and I just drive over to the gas station I used to work at, because I kind of missed them. I want to see how they were doing, so I drop by and say hi, and go, not to go on my own way. But when I go out to the car, my tire is flat. One of my tires is completely like to the ground, flat. I'm like, no! It actually was kind of hard to tell it was flat though, because it was such a thin tire. But hey, But so it was flat. And I had to go back in, and I learned. Apparently, I never knew this. One of my coworkers was the daughter of the main tire repair guy in town, and she was able to get me an emergency appointment with him around apparently a busy season where people are trying to change their tires to winter tires. So, but yeah, she got me in there. He looked at it, and it turned out that my rim was dented, and this dent has been wearing a hole in this tire for the entire year that I've had it, and it just so happened to poke a hole that day. I got it back, and so I need a new rim and a new tire to get that all fixed up, and it's gonna take another week. I'm just like, you know what? It's been like 2 months at this point. I can do one more week biking to work. This is fine. So I get there, I survive the week, I come back up, I get my car, and I'm driving away, and it's amazing. Except for when I get out a little bit, I notice that the needle on the temperature of my engine starts to go up. I'm like, no, we got a new radiator in here. What are you doing? So I had to call Walt back again. He had to look at it, and he's like, I have no idea why your car is so bad. And I was like, I don't know either. So I had to leave it again. So another couple weeks while he looked at it. I mean, it probably took him another month, actually, to decide that he just didn't know enough about the car. He could not figure out why this car was still overheating. So he called in a Subaru specialist to look at it, and the specialist took 2 seconds to look at the car, and he could already tell that my engine apparently had melted. It was now sunken in, and he had to replace the whole thing, which again is more than the car was worth. So the Dragon Mobile got freaking totaled about 5 months after it actually hit the deer. I was just like, no, we're getting into January now. You can't do this. I'm showing up to work with icicles in my goddamn beard. It is so cold, and there's snow everywhere. We had an ice storm while this was happening that I just couldn't bike through. And I thought I finally had a snow day from work, but a coworker of mine had a Jeep, and he very happily came to get me. I was like, oh, yeah, son of a bitch. But anyway, so it was a really bad winter. So I was like, can we just give me my car? And I'm like, nope, sorry, we have to take it away. Your Dragon Mobile is dead. I'm like, no. But I get Blue Book value for the car, and it does turn out this time I broke even. There was no major profit or anything, but I broke even with the car, even with the RW or whatever title it has for being through a flood, and that's okay. But now I need a new car. And this is where we get into the second part of the story of me trying to buy the new one. Because at the time, I was tutoring an 86-year-old man named George how to use a computer. And now when I say tutoring, it's more of I kept reminding him how to Google every other weekend or so. So, I was talking to him one day, and he let me know that he wanted to sell his current car. Because apparently the financing payments are getting a bit much for him because he can't work anymore. So he wanted to get another car with less payments so that he can survive and have money again. I'm like, oh, well, let me take a look. And it was a 2-year-old car, but since he's so old, he never went anywhere. This thing had like 20,000 miles on it, if that, at the time. And so it was just never driven anywhere. Spot knew he just wanted blue book value for it. It was a really good deal. I'm like, okay, yeah, I will buy this car off you. Which took some extra time, unfortunately, because now I'm trying to communicate with him while being 2 hours south. Every other weekend I had to come up and try to take care of paperwork and take care of the financing and all that money, marble, jumbo, whatever. A lot of adult speak. But anyway, so we decide that I will get a loan from my bank, and they will give me the full amount of the financing, and the financing and the value, and that will kind of take it over, because then the car place will be taken care of. They'll be paid, and I'll just pay them. I'm like, oh, this sounds great. So I get a loan approved. I've never had a loan before. Oh my god, I'm feeling so official right now. And so to finalize the loan, though, they need to know the VIN number of the car, which is like a string of 30-ish, I think, characters, like numbers and letters. And I'm like, all right. So I call up George from down where I live and said, George, can you look at your car and let me know what the VIN number is? He's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. And he comes on back and he gives me the 30 or so characters. I write them all down, make sure I have them all right. I send it to the bank, and it's not correct. I was like, oh, okay. Well, George, can you read it off for me again? And we're trying to dance around the subject that he's old, and that he can't see this apparently tiny plate that has the VIN number on it. So we're just like, oh no, it's fine. Just read it off to me again. And he does it, and it's slightly different, which means that there's some hope for this. But again, it's incorrect. So I call him up a third time and said, I'm sorry, George, I need that VIN number one more time. If you can just like really look at it and let me know what it is. And he just goes off on the fact that it's not his fault that it's not showing up correctly. It is the banker's fault because she is a woman, and oh, it got bad. It got really bad. I'm like, oh no. Okay, well he gave it to me a third time. I'm like, no, this should be it. We'll be done. But I give it to the bank and it's not right. And I'm like, I don't want to call him back because I don't want him to, because he was gonna call the bank and yell at the woman for being wrong. It was just, I guess, different times, different people. I don't know, but I'm like, I can't call him back. What do I do? So I finally remember that I think it's Carfax.com has a VIN checker. So I spend like an hour trying different combinations of changing the B's to 8s to 4s to A's, everything that I can, 2s to 7s and T's and everything else, until by chance I actually figure out what it is. I got it. So I call the bank back swearing up and down that I now have the right number, so they're gonna be okay. So it turns out that it was the number. Thank God. That goes through, and there was one final thing. I had to come up, and I had to get the check written by the bank for the $14,000 I was paying for this car for. A lot of money. And just get it signed by myself, and get it signed by George. Once that was done, bring it back to the bank. They'll send it out to the car company. Everybody's happy. So I had to call George. I didn't know that this signature was coming that he had to do. So I'm like, George, there is one more extra step to do this, and we would like you to sign the check before we send it out to the car dealership. And once that's done, the money's yours, and you're set to go. And So he says, okay, and I hang up the phone, and my dad needed to take care of some things at my parents' gift shop, which is thankfully, it was like, 10 miles away from where George lives, so I was like, okay. We left my dad, who was in a big hurry to get back home. So he said, please don't be longer than like 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, no, this should be fine. I just go in, get it signed. So I take my dad's car over to George's house, and I say, George, hi, can you do this? But, well, I went to say that, but he was in the bathroom. And I was like, oh, God, no, because as an older individual, it took him the full 15 minutes to get out of the bathroom. I'm like, George! And, which is actually, it seemed like a longer time than usual. I'm like, George, are you okay? I'm like, it would just be my luck that he dies the day that we would get the check signed. I mean, I'd miss him, but, just that kind of a thing. Anyway. So, thankfully he does come out, but then he's not talking to me. Like, George, are you okay? Everything fine? Well, it turns out he's on purpose giving me the cold shoulder because he's mad that I don't trust him. I was like, George, what do you mean? What do you mean I don't trust you? He's like, well, you're gonna make me sign the check. We weren't gonna sign the check, so obviously you don't trust me. So he's in this big huff about signing the check. I'm like, no, they just need that to know that you're approving sending this car to me and being done. And, it was this big old mess. And I just couldn't get him to understand that this had to happen. This isn't some extra thing because he's old. I'm not sure where this came from. But now he wants to, like, he'll sign the check, but he wants to mail it. I'm like, no, George, the bank wants to mail it. So I have to call the bank and approve the fact that we can send it ourselves. We can. To the dealership. We know the address, we know it all, but they want to have it sent with like special mail for tracking and all that. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll get that taken care of when we get to the post office. I'm like, George, okay, I will drive you. He says, no, I will damn well drive myself. In the car that I want to buy, nonetheless. So we're supposed to now drive separately. But it took another 15 minutes for him to get ready and get into his car, like hobbling out the front door, and immediately gets the car stuck in the snow. Because it snowed probably like 6 inches the night before. Like there's a fair covering around. And my poor dad's time limit is just being destroyed. Because I'm putting sticks under his tires, everything I can. Because I've gotten a fair amount of cars unstuck. But he's this angry old man, and he keeps spinning his tires. I'm just like, God damn it, George. Just ease the pedal. Just get out of the car. I can get this car out of here. If you will just let me know. No, I've got it. I can do it. God damn it, George. So we struggle with it forever. And finally, I remember that he has rock salt somewhere in his porch. So I run on inside to go get that. And it takes me forever because he's just piling stuff on top of other stuff. I'm pretty sure there was some rotten oranges somewhere back in there. I don't know. It was a mess. So finally, I find it. I come back out. We're going to get this car out of here. And then George is out of the car and walking back to his front door. I'm like, George, are we still going to the mail? Not the mail office. The post office? He's like, no. I'm like, why? I took care of it. What do you mean you took care of it? And he explained that when I went inside, apparently the mailman showed up. And even though George didn't have like an envelope or stamps or anything, like he is apparently good friends with the mailman. So he just handed the $14,000 check to the mailman, because it thankfully had the address printed on it to be sent to have him send it for him. When the bank had asked me to get the tracking and all that, I'm like, George, no, which way did he go? And he wouldn't tell me because he was still mad. And it's just a cobweb of dirt roads back on top of the mountain where George lives, so I have no possible way of knowing where this mail person is to go get the check. So I'm just like, I finally just lose on. I'm like, fuck it. All right, okay, you have a good day, sir. I'm going to go back and get my dad, I guess. So now I can't take the car. And I had to go back to my dad, who's already grumpy, like, oh, you were supposed to be only gone for 15 minutes. I'm like, I'm sorry, Dad. I know that it's like 2.5 hours later, but on top of that, I couldn't get the car because he gave it to the mailman, and you now have to drive me 2 hours south and then drive yourself 2 hours back home again. And oh boy, he was real happy about that. That was a very nice car ride that he and I had. Oh my god. And so we get that finally sorted out. 'Cause it turned out that apparently the mailman was like the greatest Samaritan and properly took care of it, where everyone was happy. The bank got their confirmation and what was it? So they get the money, I get the car, and we're done. I'm like, oh my god, okay. Oh, we get the car, everything's all settled. And we did this to help George, like I said in the beginning, buy a car that that he could afford and hold down onto. I learned later, because this obviously put a little bit of a strain on our friendship there, but I heard later that apparently he went to a car dealership to get another car and was talked into buying a car that was more expensive than the one he had before. So now he has bigger monthly payments on the car. And I'm just like, I wish you luck with that, I guess, George. Thank you for the car, which I still have the red, what is it, Hyundai Elantra? It's a good car. I've had it for a good long time. And at the moment, that's where I am with cars. But goddammit, why does every car I have to be a story? So I guess at the moment, that's all of my car adventures to date. But if anything happens to this one, I will be sure to come back with a part 3 to tell you all about it. But for now, I wish you all a good day and stay safe while driving. Bye, everybody!